Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Deadliest Warrior podcast. This week, we'll be covering the Spartan versus the Ninja. I am your host, Matt Davis, and joining me in our high-tech fight club in the rolling hills of the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, are my colleagues,
Craig Taylor
and
Lucas Earhart from Green Dice Games.
Hey, Green Dice Productions, shout out. How are we doing today, guys? You guys feeling good?
I'm good. The audio went off without a hitch, so I am raring to go.
So this is, of course, episode 1. We're starting off, though, with the Spartan versus the Ninja. So Deadliest Warrior, for those of you who don't know, show that aired on Spike TV from 2009 to 2011. It is the best show ever made, objectively, right? And we're going to be spending the next hour talking about maybe why it's not the best show ever made. We're starting with Spartan versus Ninja. Even though the first episode, when you look up the list of the series, is Apache versus Gladiator, Spartan versus Ninja is the pilot. When you watch it, you can tell it's filmed in a different location. It was filmed in 2007, and we just figured it's much more iconic to the series.
It's the quintessential Deadliest Warrior episode.
Yeah,
Look at any Deadliest Warrior logo, anything, the game, anything, who's on the cover. It's the Spartan and the Ninja.
Yeah, it really is the quintessential episode. So without further ado, why don't we get into it here? So Spartan vs. Ninja, we get the intro from the legendary actor David Wenham. You might know him as the dude from 300 or Faramir from Lord of the Rings. Fun fact about David Wenham is he went, for the entirety of this show's run, he went under a pseudonym for this show. The narrator was listed as Matthew Sky. I can't imagine why he wouldn't want to be attached to such a fine program. But he intros it by going, I'm going to try to do the David Wenham voice, all right? The Spartan, the battlefield butcher from ancient Greece, versus the Ninja, legendary master of death from Japan.
The amount of times we've tried to imitate that voice throughout our childhood, I can't even begin to think about.
I know. That narrating voice is like an inner monologue in my head, you know.
We were like peak age for this show too when it came out.
Yes.
Like we were around like maybe middle schoolish age.
Yes, we were in junior high and like early high school when this show came out.
We were the peak audience for this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, as contrary to what Spike might have you believe as like the man channel, it was very much a channel for young boys.
Yes, it was. It was Deadliest Warrior, Mancers,
1,000 Ways to Die.
1,000 Ways to Die. And then Spike also had a lot of like early UFC stuff too, which is why random UFC people appear in the Deadliest Warrior show.
One thing that I find really interesting in researching for the podcast, I am truly fascinated with all of the different like actors and overlap with people that are actually in the cast. Like there's so many people where you look at them and you're like, oh, this is probably just an actor. Yeah, that's something I'm hoping to uncover as we dive more in.
We'll be covering that today,
oh, yes.
That's for sure.
Something we will just uncover about Deadliest Warrior is that it's sort of coming off as a like reality show, right? That's presenting like pseudoscience sort of. When really I'm pretty sure our thesis of this podcast is that Deadliest Warrior is a scripted work of fiction. And even though they get the occasional like legitimate expert in on something, the majority of air quotes experts are just stunt actors or TV models. So we'll be diving into that. For this episode, I'm going to be walking us through the plot, if you will. And we have Craig, who is our in-house ninja researcher.
I'm glad you didn't use the word expert.
Right. So I could use the expert the word expert in the way the Deadliest Warrior uses it, because even though you guys have done about a week of combing on the internet, I feel like you guys know more about the Warriors than anybody that was on the show.
Yeah, fun fact, I got more qualified in 4 hours than some of the experts for the Spartans.
Right. Yeah. So before we get into the experts for the shows, I wanted to cover the hosts, because this is the first episode and the hosts are such a big character of this show. So we have Jeff DeSMOULIN, who is described to us as a scientist and karate black belt. So his moniker on the show is biomedical engineer. And from what I could tell in my research, Jeff DeSMOULIN is legit. He is a biomedical engineer. And I do really, one thing I love about the show, and we will be doing a running bit, is that Jeff's resume grows almost every episode, including this one. They add a new profession that he's like done. So we will be adding this segment, Jeff DeSMOULIN resume.
I want the total list at the very end. This ridiculously long 5-page resume of everything this man is certified in.
He's like Batman.
He is like Batman. He ends up with like 20 jobs by the end of the show. So we also have Max GEIGER, who is described as a 21-year-old computer whiz. Max GEIGER works in computer programming. This is from my research. He seems to primarily work in game design. You can follow him on Twitter. You can Google him. He's a pretty like public figure. So he runs the simulation. So this is another.
That's another character.
Yeah, this is another character in the show, and a question we want answered. Max GEIGER, if you're listening, please come on the show. We want to ask you the question: is the sim real? Is the simulation that the show is based on real? From what I can tell from Max GEIGER's Reddit AMA, and also if you comb through the forums on the Slytherin website, the sim is real and it's real, but it's really just a modified version of a game that Slytherin Studios made called...
What is Slytherin Studios here, just for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, so Slytherin Studios, and they say it on the show, that they're the designers of the simulation that the show uses to determine who is deadliest, right? And Slytherin Studios is just they make video games. They're a programming company that designs a lot of computer games, a lot of like historical battle games.
Totally accurate battle simulator.
Yeah, right.
Type games.
And you guys are going to crack up when you hear what the game they used for Deadliest Warrior is, because they modified it just a little bit. So it's called The History Channel Great Battles of Rome. That is, I don't know how you modify the code to get a Spetsnaz's Sega shotgun in History Channel Great Battles of Rome. Max GEIGER, that's why we need you on here, bud. But we will be debating throughout the show whether the sim is actually real or not.
Did they consult the developers and ask, how would we get Pol Pot in this game?
Right, yeah.
See, my biggest thing, every time they show the sim, what is it? It's a Microsoft Excel sheet and like maybe some little bit of pictures and graphs in the background.
You'll oftentimes see on this show superimposed like green screen effects onto Max GEIGER's computer monitor that are clearly like effects that they put on his screen and not actually what's on his screen. So it's shrouded in much mystery. So it begs the question, is this a real thing that they're trying to keep secret? Or is the sim just like the writer of the show sitting down and be like, I don't know, 123 kills sounds good for the Ninjato. Just writing that down. And the third host I want to cover is the beloved Dr. Armand Dorian, who is a real-life ER doctor. That is true. And the way I think he found his way onto this show is that he is an MMA doctor. I don't know if he still does that or not, but he was an MMA doctor for a while, patching up fighters on Spike TV, so hence why they have him on here. All right, now let's get into the meat. So at the beginning of the episode, we are introduced to Team Spartan's experts. All right, and we have one of the most beloved characters of the show, Barry Jacobson. Barry Jacobson reminds us of the meme of the golden retriever in the camo hat that says, "My daughter ain't dating no black lab." He just has that look about him. He's like bald dad look going on. But he's monikered as a former Green Beret and Spartan historian. You can also, so when I researched him a little bit, he is the historical advisor for the show. He's an associate producer for the show, Deadliest Warrior. So he's involved in all of these episodes, just behind the scenes. And I couldn't tell if his Green Beret service is legitimate or not, but everywhere I checked, it says that he was in the Army Special Forces. So I'm assuming he's telling the truth about that. And the other guy is Jeremy Dunn, who doesn't get an intro but wields a lot of the Spartan weapons. And you can look him up on IMDb. He's an actor, a model, and a stunt performer. That's going to be a recurring theme, is that most of the experts are just stunt actors. He was in the Pirates of the Caribbean, Amazing Spider-Man, etc. So before we move on to Team Ninja, I wanted to ask you, Luke, because you've done some of the research.
Oh, yes.
Please tell us a little bit about the Spartans and the Battle of Thermopylae, because a certain movie came out around the time
I'm going to address the elephant in the room
of this show, and I just want you to get into it a little bit. What did you find?
Let me start off. Let me take my impression of these of the experts for the Spartans, because this was kind of like a little bit of a wake up call for me that like, hey, I watched this, we said we were in like junior high.
That the show is fake.
Yeah, pretty much. This is like my first taste that, hey, the show is fake, buddy.
Maybe Ric Flair is an actor.
So we got the Jeremy Dunn guy. Yeah, I looked him up, and he is a weapons expert, and nowhere could I find anything other than him just being a straight up actor and stunt guy. He has no qualifications with any medieval weapons, has no qualifications, pretty much, I assume, with just weapons in general that I could find. Jeremy, if you're out there, go ahead and correct me. Send me your certifications, but from what I could see, bud, you're just an actor. And I was like, all right, that was my first red flag. But Barry Jacobson, everywhere I looked to, everyone says he was a former Green Beret, so I'll take it at face value. I mean, he looks like it. He seems like he would be.
We only harp on the Green Beret thing, to be clear, because there is a controversy that happens in season 3 with Robert Daly, who they announced for the entirety of season 3 as a former Green Beret, and it turns out he just lied about that to get on the show.
Which calls into question the authenticity of any of these people.
Right, yes.
Well, I think Barry's got it pretty good. I mean, from what he was an associate producer on the show and the history advisor for most of season 1 and 2 at least. Yep. And he is a medieval combat reenactor for 35 years before the show. And he also formed a Spartan war band that was a combat group that would recreate Spartan culture, because that's something you want to do, right?
Hey, he's a history buff. And
yeah, hats off to Barry. Yeah,
I guess we love Barry because he gives us a couple good taglines, and he also is one of the few experts that checks out as like legit to what he claims to be. So
he's also your girlfriend's dad, who you are praying you do not end up alone in a room with.
yes, very looks like he could be pretty intimidating. So
oh no, something's stomping into the room right now. It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
the movie 300. Ever since that movie has come out, it has taken this battle. That's this historical battle and just blown it out of proportion to the point that like a Spartan has become pretty much like a superhero in people's eyes. I mean, people are getting tattoos on it.
Yes.
The Molon Lave tattoos.
I think there's a lot of. We won't go into it because this isn't the 300 podcast. But
I just wanted to touch on.
There's a lot of like, I think, with the timing of that movie coming out, with the United States having a war in the Middle East, like that. What like American culture has adopted like 300 and the Spartans as a sort of
Rocky versus Ivan story.
Yeah, they really think that like Leonidas, they're Leonidas, you know.
There's a lot of Joe Rogan aesthetic going on there.
Yes. By the way, we love you, Joe.
It gives a stigma where, like, anytime you tell someone, like, you know, I'm sure there's people out there that genuinely are really interested in Sparta's history and they like the Spartans. You're now lumped in with every douchebag wearing a tap-out t-shirt doing the Spartan race.
Yeah, so the Battle of Thermopylae, Lucas, so according to all my sources, it was 300 Spartans versus approximately 3 billion Persian men-at-arms, and the Spartans won.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. Let me tell you, even on the show itself, it says that there's 500,000 Persians.
Yeah.
I got some real
There's no way.
numbers here. There was about 300,000,
okay.
Which is, you know, it's still impressive. While with the 300 Spartans, there was about 7,000 other soldiers from various places. And even on the show, it says the Spartans racked up 200,000 kills when still respectable in real life.
Yeah.
Go Spartans, the real number was around 20,000, which is about, you know,
and
a little bit less.
I just wanted to bring this up because I'm going to bring up this with the ninjas, something similar to this with the ninja as well. But it's interesting that this is a 1v1 fight because historically Spartans fought in a phalanx.
Oh,
Isn't
yes.
that right?
That is correct. Yeah, they would fight kind of shoulder to shoulder with the shields out in front of them.
Yeah.
Something that will get completely ripped apart and their entire fighting strategy gets destroyed by this show.
All right. So let's move on to Team Ninja here. We have, we busted out laughing when Lou Klein came on screen. So I have something to say about Lou Klein. Lou Klein is monikered as a ninjitsu master. And I just wrote, this is a total fabrication because there's nothing called ninjitsu. It's called ninjutsu. So the show gets that wrong somehow. From everything I could find, Lou Klein might know some martial arts, but he's just a stunt actor.
For what?
I couldn't
Like
find
American Pie?
So I couldn't find anything on his IMDb page. I just found out that he does stunt work. So also when I was searching for Lou Klein, I was going into such deep depths of the internet that I was like, my computer gave me a security warning about crypto jacking at one point, and it was at that point I decided I don't need to know any more about Lou. So Lou, if you want to call into the show for next week, hit us up, send us an email. We'd love to hear about your experience on the show.
Please tell us what your qualifications are.
Is it
ninjutsu?
Ninjitsu? The other expert is Michael LEHR, and you can find a ton about Michael LEHR. He's introduced as a karate instructor and black belt in 4 different martial arts. I didn't bother to fact check that. It's probably true, but he's you can search him on IMDb as a long resume as a stunt actor. He worked in films like John Wick. He was most recently in the Mulan 2020 film. And you can kind of tell he's an actor because he's really hamming it up on this episode.
He's definitely probably one of the most passionate presenters I've seen on Deadliest Warrior.
Yes.
He does his job. He does 2 splits and does his job very well.
So I wanted to bring that up. When we first see him, he's doing a split on the floor.
Straight balls making contact with the floor.
So Craig, I want to turn to you as our resident ninja researcher.
Go ahead, say expert.
Our resident ninja expert.
Let me do a split real quick.
The show presents the ninjas. They present this narrative that ninjas were peasant farmers in feudal Japan, and they had to fight against the samurai class, which is like the knights of Japan, roughly speaking. And in order to stand toe-to-toe with these armored and well-armed people, these farmers donned, stealth clothing and sort of snuck around at night. What is the truth about the ninja? Is this accurate, or what have you found in your studies?
So I found that the ninja as we know it popularly is not real.
Yeah.
Which,
yep.
in looking back on the show, they speak of everything so factually.
Yeah.
And so to say ninjas weren't real isn't entirely accurate. So ninjas were, a lot of times they were lower class, so they weren't often written about. So that's why there's kind of shaky historical info on them. But they worked with the samurai a lot. They served daimyos as mercenaries and spies. Oh. So a lot of times they're more specialized samurai for, like, you know.
Yeah, I kind of always thought, like, maybe a ninja is because samurai have a strict code of Bushido where sneaking around and assassinating people is not exactly within their code of honor. But maybe donning the disguise of a ninja would allow someone to do the necessities of warfare, you know, without bringing dishonor to themselves or...
Yeah, I mean, the whole dishonor thing, too, brings up another good point. I saw one source that said there is no historical evidence that a ninja has ever killed anyone.
Interesting.
Which is, on a show called Deadliest Warrior, is pretty incredible. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder... It almost makes the later Vampire vs. Zombie episode feel like the most authentic episode, because at least they're like, okay, what would this be like? Yeah. So it just made my mind scramble, realizing all the different ways that some of the stuff was a little inaccurate.
So you brought up something off screen before we started recording, and you mentioned, I liked it so much I wanted to bring it up here, that you mentioned the warriors presented on Deadliest Warrior, even when they're real people, like real historical figures, are romanticized versions of those warriors. They're, you know, it's the mythical idea of what a ninja is, right?
Yeah, and in reality, that's almost preferable, because if you're talking with your buddies who'd win in a fight, a ninja versus Spartan, you don't care that ninja was actually like a special spy samurai. You want like the classic version.
Yeah, you're picturing like
the Halloween costume.
Yeah, Shredder from the Ninja Turtles fighting Leonidas, King Leonidas.
Yeah, but obviously that clashes with a lot of this historical like stuff that they try to quote from, and especially in later seasons when they're pulling like, oh, he had Alzheimer's later in life, or just stupid stuff that is like hyper realistic and historical.
Yes,
like
it clashes with the show big time.
Yeah, so that's why I'm also looking forward to seeing in later researches if this continues, or maybe they truly do stick to more authentic stuff. I
got a question for you, Craig.
Sure.
Did you find anything about the outfit that they portray the ninja in?
Yeah, so
we're talking about that quintessential all black like gi kind of with a black face mask that only has.
I found something on it too, and I want to hear what you found. I want to see if it lines up with what I found out about that outfit.
So that black suit and the modern idea of what a ninja is apparently started with like a James Bond film. Like that was where that image came from. And so like ninja, I don't think wore all black primarily. Like they was like maybe a more modified version of that. And there's in the ninja handbook, there's mention of like wearing all black to blend in with the shadow, but I don't think anyone actually walked around in that Spirit Halloween outfit.
Spirit.
What I found out about that outfit that like is your stereotypical Halloween costume, it was something called a kabuki theater outfit that background like theater helpers would wear in like feudal Japan and like old time Japan to move set pieces around, and they would wear the all black with their eyes cut out, and then occasionally, if like the play called for it, they would jump out and like scare an actor to help the play along in that black outfit. And that's where this idea that these ninjas would wear these kabuki theater outfits, I guess, came from. I have no idea. Someone could fact check me on that. That is just what I saw.
That's very interesting. And the last thing I wanted to say about the ninja before we move into the weapons is that, I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot, but I brought up the fact that the Spartan is primarily a phalanx warrior, and they throw him into a 1v1 battle here. The ninja, however real the ninja is, we know the idea of the ninja. To me, the ninja's whole quintessential, like the centerpiece of it is stealth, right? Sneaking around. And to throw the ninja into a 1v1, like, all right, we're just going to throw him into a simulated arena in this computer, and they're going to fight to the death. It's just kind of like, well, ninja wasn't really even designed for that.
It's an assassin versus like just a beta male armored up like made to go head on warrior.
You are stepping on some toes calling the Spartans beta males. Wow, that is we're gonna be getting dislikes here.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest things we talk about with the mismatch here is that a ninja would never fight a Spartan in the middle of the field in Los Angeles. Like they would.
Yes.
That was a joke, of course, as Spartans are alphas. For the guy out there getting mad at
Barry Jacobson,
the original Chads. So the weapons. So I'm going to be bouncing a lot of this stuff off you guys, but I wanted to give one observation for those of you watching the show. When you watch the show, this is something it took me forever to realize until recently. They add in so many cheesy sound effects when people are testing the weapons. I'm not talking about the little reenactments with the people in the costumes. I'm talking about like when Lou Klein is throwing shurikens at a wooden target, you can hear like a little spinning through the air sound effect that someone edited into that. So always pay attention to that because those are so they entertain the hell out of me because they add all sort of sound effects like that. So our first weapons that we're given, it's at mid-range, and it's the spear versus the black eggs. So the spear, not much to say. They label it as a wood shaft with an iron tip. Insert your phallic jokes in the comments below. So they test the spear by jamming it into a dummy and seeing how the kinetic power registers. And then they jam it into a ballistics gel. Now, ballistics gels are a centerpiece of this show.
I have a bone to pick with the ballistics gel.
I'm going to get to you in a second. They are constantly testing things on pig carcasses and ballistic gels. Lucas, what do you think about what do you think about the validity of testing a ballistic gel against an edged weapon?
Absolute bullshit. It's in the name. Say it with me. Ballistics gel.
Yes.
It's not poke it with a sword, slash it with a sword, poke it with a spear gel. It's meant for ammunition. It's meant for testing on
guns
against bullets. Yeah.
Yes.
It's completely invalid. It's not the same density as human tissue whenever you're using like a bladed or
I would point this out.
weapon.
You can watch on Deadliest Warrior and see it firsthand. People take their fingers and poke right through the ballistics gel at times. So
I just poked right through my chest by accident.
Is it the same? Is it mimicking the density of human skin? Yes, but that's for like kinetic projectiles like bullets. For a spear, like if you can poke, I cannot poke my finger through my forearm. You know what I mean? Like, so the fact that you can do that obviously means ballistic gels are much softer.
It's like making a bowl of Jell-O, hitting it with a spear, and saying, "Look at that damage."
So no doubt the spear would do a lot of damage to you if you got stabbed with it. But yeah, the ballistics gel, a little questionable. What do you have anything to say about the spear, Luke?
Not really. Just a couple facts about it. It's originally called a dory, and they had a spike on the backside too, which was for if the tip broke off, you can spin it around.
I believe it's for balancing as well too.
Yeah, you could stick it in the ground. Here's a fun fact, because we're going to be covering the javelin soon. The Spartan warriors were not allowed to throw their spears. That was like a big no-no. You'd get punished for that.
But Leonidas does it in slow motion.
Yeah, and it's almost like that movie's complete made up.
I see. So no spear
the spear's
throwing.
Pretty cut and dry, though. I mean, it's a big pointy stick. It's very effective.
Yeah.
They put it up against, we're covering the black egg.
Yes.
It's not a fair fight.
So Craig, the ninja at mid-range is given the black egg, which is supposed to be filled with crushed glass or chili pepper. You can crush it in your hand and throw it in a guy's eye. A couple things I just want to note. They're giving the ninja a non-lethal weapon here. Like, you can't kill anybody by throwing glass in their eyeball. Little pieces of glass. And it's their whole thing, though, is that this is a weapon for fighting an armored opponent. Like, ninjas would use this against samurai. They would blind them so that they could get a critical strike on a non-armored part. I have a couple things to ask you, Craig, but do you have anything in general you want to say about the Black Egg?
Well, I'll say this in general about all of the ninjas' weapons. Most of them, if you look them up on Wikipedia, all say how they were utilized by the samurai. Right. So, like, looking up the shuriken or, like, the kusarigama, all that stuff talks about lethality with samurai. Because, again, ninjas, to an extent, aren't real. So, right. I honestly couldn't find a lot on Black Eggs. I don't think it was made up because I think where a lot of it comes from is the Ninja Handbook. They talk about a lot of ways to be crafty. And I fully believe that there's probably a chapter on
hollowing out eggs.
Exactly. Because there was information on like incendiary devices, explosives that Ninja could craft in this handbook. So I imagine it's sourced from that.
Yeah.
Is that thing you download off the internet and the FBI comes after you?
Black Egg. Yeah.
I found a couple facts about it. I found that they never used glass in them because glass was a rare commodity in ancient Japan, so they would not use it as a weapon.
That's a great point that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, and they did not use chicken eggs because they were way too big and hard to conceal.
You know who could afford some glass as a samurai, probably. A little more richer than the peasant farmer.
It said, when I saw it, they said they would fill it with, like, pepper and stuff, which is fine. You get that in your eyes, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
How is that any different from just me, like, leaning down, grabbing a handful of sand and throwing it in your face?
Craig, did you look up anything? I was curious about this because they sort of imply on the show that ninjas disappearing into a cloud of dust is because of this weapon. Because they throw the shards of glass into your eyeballs and they disappear. What's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell what's myth and what's real with the ninja because so much of it is romanticized. I would imagine that this was a stealth tactic, considering ninjas historically never killed anybody. Mm-hmm. This is probably used in spying, and ninjutsu being this ninja arts in general. I don't think anyone really thought that they had special powers.
Yeah.
But I think that they maybe were confused and things like that. So I have a feeling that it's not, they didn't literally think they were disappearing.
They do acknowledge in the aftermath of this episode that ninjas also had smoke bombs at their disposal.
Which seem way more practical.
Right. I just don't know. Maybe this is like the poor man's smoke bomb, maybe.
They present it as like an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be like a getaway weapon, wouldn't it? Like,
so let's get into this. They give the edge. So for those of you who don't know, go watch the show. But for those of you who don't know, when they test a weapon against another weapon, right? One warrior against another's, they give an edge. Now that doesn't always translate it to getting more kills in the sim, which is why I kind of think the sim might be real. It's just like a rudimentary like game, like a computer game. Instead of someone just making it up. But they give the edge to the spear in this case because the spear kills and the Black Egg doesn't. Do we agree? I'm going to go with Craig first. Do you agree with the spear getting the edge over the Black Egg?
I'm going to interject because I wrote down the stats from the simulation. Just for reference, the spear got 210 kills and the Black Egg got 0.
Right. Yes. We will go over those stats at the very end, too. But do you agree with the edge, Craig?
It's a fucking egg. I mean, obviously, it's a little hyperbolic, but yeah. I mean, the spear is such an important weapon to the Spartan. I mean, was this was medium range? It wasn't like special weapons?
This is mid-range. The special weapon is the shield.
The Kusarigama.
Yeah, the shield versus the Kusarigama, yes.
Yeah, and I think Kasuragama is a way better mid-range weapon
Yes.
to test. The Black Egg is the definition of special.
Yeah.
So
just terrible match. I mean, that would have been at least an exciting matchup because based off of the kills, which we'll go over the end. I mean, the spear and
Kasuragama. They come pretty close.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Like it would have been a much better matchup, I think.
Yeah. I feel like I don't need to ask Luke. You're gonna give the edge to the spear, right?
Let me just put it this way. A guy comes up to me and says, I can stab you with a spear or throw an egg at your face.
Right. Throw some chili, some Frank's Red Hot in your eyeballs.
One I can recover from in about, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
One I don't recover from.
Yeah. I would, obviously I agree with the edge going to the spear, but for what it's worth. But I question why the Black Egg isn't used in combination with another weapon. Like, it's not used tangentially with another weapon, considering it gets no kills.
I think it's even demonstrated with a sai. Like, he has a sai when he throws it.
Yes, he does. So I'm curious if behind the scenes, because in the aftermath for this episode, Barry Jacobsen says they test a lot of different ninja weapons in the pilot that don't make the final cut. And so I am curious if the Black Egg was used in conjunction with, like, a different weapon, because I feel like it should be. I feel like it's not fair to put the Black Egg on its own because it's not surprising that it gets no kills. It's not a lethal weapon, so it should. I feel like it should be, the Ninjato combined with the Black Egg, right? Because the Spartan is getting his sword with a shield, so... I don't know. Just an interesting thought. Are you guys ready to move on to the next set of weapons? Or
yeah, I think so. I think we've pretty much beat that horse to death.
Yeah, pretty one-sided. So when we move on to the close-range weapons, we get the Spartan short sword, otherwise known as a Xiphos, versus, I'm going to pronounce it Ninjato.
That's how they say it on the show, and then they go Ninjato.
Not Luke KLEIN.
Yes, so we'll get to that. Ninjato notes it's made out of tempered carbon steel. So probably the most memorable thing about the Ninjato is that Luke KLEIN introduces it and goes,
"It's a variation of the actual samurai katana called a ninjitsu."
The Ninjato.
So I, for the purposes of this podcast, am going to be saying Ninjato because I could just as easily see Luke KLEIN like faking that like accent on there, being like, the stunt actor being like, "This is the ninjutsu."
Yeah. See, I have a perfect interjection here because it doesn't matter, and because of what I could find based off my research, it's not a real sword and it doesn't exist.
Okay.
From what I found,
it seems to just be a short katana.
Yeah, the Ninjato was created essentially by Hollywood, and it's just a shorter, flatter katana. But back whenever the ninja would have existed, from everything I could find, they would have just used a katana.
Okay. Craig, what did you find about the Ninjato? Because I could definitely see a real Ninjato existing. I didn't research it at all. But they predicate on the show that maybe the purpose of a Ninjato is that it's in a full-length samurai sheath, right? Full-length katana sheath, but it's a shorter sword, so you can deceive an opponent into drawing quicker than them, because your blade will come out quicker. Did you find anything on the Ninjato?
Matt, I love the enthusiasm, but let me read you this off of Wikipedia. Historically, there is no physical evidence for the existence of this katana-like short sword legendarily used by ninja before the 20th century.
I'm glad that was conclusive because I was like, maybe it does. Like, I second-guessed my own research. I was like, maybe it does exist.
I'm glad both of you came to the same. So I'm finding more and more credence that the whole ninja ethos just comes from like James Bond and Hollywood,
just early Hollywood movies,
than it does from ancient Japan.
But there's a qualified expert in a sword that doesn't exist.
Yes. So another interesting note is that Lou Klein claims it will cut through bronze armor because it's steel, yet they never test that. Maybe they tested it off camera and it dents the armor and they just didn't want to show that.
How funny would it be? He does it like the sword busts in half or something.
So I don't know. Interesting. If anyone's got a bronze cuirass around, try hitting your katana off it and see what happens.
No, go to the fairy mythical realm and get a ninjutsu and then hit it.
Now, I have to stop the podcast completely, gentlemen, to say we have our first Jeff DeMoulin career alert. When he's examining the pig carcass, David Wenham informs us that Jeff DeMoulin was also a former paramedic. So, right now the count is at 3. He is a biomedical engineer, he is a karate black belt, and he is a former paramedic. That's the DeMoulin count.
What a career change.
All right. We can move on to the short sword then. So the Xiphos, I do believe, did exist.
That is correct.
Right?
It is a real sword. It was actually, there was 2 common swords, and they didn't even cover the more common sword, which was the kopis.
Yes. Fun
Xiphos,
fact, the kopis, Greek word for cut, I believe. The kopis is covered in a later episode.
Yeah.
It is Alexander the Great's sword in season 2. But
the difference between the two, the Xiphos was used more for the stabby, and kopis was the slashy.
Yes.
And nothing real notable about it. It's a little tiny short sword. A lot of Greek people used swords that were like 2 feet long. The only thing special about it, it's 12 inches. And on the show, okay, I love this. On the show, at the bottom in the facts, it says made with forged steel. Let me be clear that when was forged steel made? Like the 1800s? I don't think the Spartan soldiers... the only thing I could find is that there was like one random obscure website that said that Spartans had an obscure, like, kind of ghetto-made steel that they attempted to make themselves.
Interesting.
But I highly doubt it. It's just like
probably a bronze weapon, right?
It's a bronze and iron sword. Yeah. It is not steel, but
the one they use on the episode is probably forged steel.
The remake, like a lot of the Spartan weapons, the remakes they use on the show are complete bullshit.
Yeah. The sword ends up getting bent on the steel spine. And Barry Jacobson credits that to like bronze bending against the steel.
That's steel on steel.
Yeah. They test both swords against a pig carcass because they can't decide which one's more lethal. Even though one is like considerably longer than the other. And it's not fair because a ninjato, which isn't a real sword, so let's say a katana. Katana is a 2-handed weapon. And a Xiphos is a worse sword, I guess, if that's all you have. But they don't bother to factor in that, like, a Spartan would have his shield in the other hand.
Yeah.
I'm sure the sim factors that in, maybe. But in their tests, it's always funny to me that they're like, well, what's better between a Ninjato and a Xiphos? What would you rather have? And it's like, I mean, if it means I get that giant shield, I'd rather have the littler sword.
It's almost like it works hand in hand. I got something like, please explain to me how you get data from cutting a pig in half. And I want to loop back around that the Kaifos, the Kaifos was their slashing sword. So why is he slashing at it with a Xiphos instead of the kopis?
Instead of the kopis.
Why is he slashing at it? An already cut in half pig.
So what happens in the show is they both tested on a ballistics gel. And shocker, both swords are capable of killing a ballistics gel dummy. The doctor comes over, Dr. Armand, who collects the easiest paycheck of his life from this show. Comes over, Barry Jacobson buries this sword into this dummy's like bowels, and the doctor's like, yeah, he would die.
Death blow.
And so they bring out a pig and hang it from a ceiling. The Ninjato cuts it in half, and the Xiphos Barry Jacobsen is left to swing at like the hind end of the pig because they didn't have another pig on set.
It's like
I'm
6
assuming
feet off the ground too.
And he's not able to cut it in half because it's not a cutting sword; it's a thrusting sword. And because of the pig carcass test, they give the edge to the Ninjato. Craig, do you agree? Do you have anything more to say about the short sword and the Ninjato? Do you agree with the edge given?
I guess so. I mean, their justification is just that, well, the Ninjato's faster.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all they say. I really feel like they threw up their hands. I mean, we also theorize that they're like, okay, we need it to be 2-2-2.
Yes.
Or else it's going to be too obvious.
That's a big theme of the show.
Yes.
The Ninjato is steel, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So at the end of the day, it's just a steel sword versus what, like an iron or bronze sword?
Yeah.
I mean, the steel sword's better.
Yeah, I agree with the Ninjato getting the edge as it's presented. In conjunction with the shield, it might be a little different, but like sword on sword, Ninjato, even though it's a fake sword, is the better sword. I'm glad you brought that up, Craig, like the making the edges even, because it's clear that the edges are a narrative tool that they use in the script to like, they will bend it whatever way they need to try and make sure that it ends up as even edges before the final battle.
I think there's one episode maybe where it's uneven.
I do remember. There's a couple.
There's a handful where it happens, but you'll notice in season 1, it's a little bit par for the course. Like, you'll have episodes where some people have like 6 weapons, but eventually they distill it down in season 2 to each warrior having 4 weapons. And that allows them to do 4 tests and do 2 on one side and 2 on the other. So, yeah. And this episode is not an exception. They do go 2 and 2 on this one. All right. With nothing more, we can move on to long range, if you guys want. We got the javelin versus the blowgun and the shuriken combo. Craig, I want you to talk about the blowgun first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it exists.
Is this real?
From my understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so the blowgun existed, again, not used in the sense that they present it, because it would be used probably to knock people out or something like that, or just as a kind of a non-lethal alternative. So
yeah, they present it as like a surprise attack, but then also say it's a poison dart. And I wonder, like, how logistically that would work. You'd put like snake venom on the tip of your dart and then shoot at the Spartan. By the way, they do insert that sound effect when they're blowing the blowgun.
I do love, I think if I'm not mistaken, in the reenactment, like the ninja's getting chased and he turns around, lines up a shot, and it like bounces right off the Spartan.
He bounces, he pulls the shield up and it just dings off the shield.
And just like, fuck, that didn't work.
Like he has a giant 3-foot shield in front of him.
Yeah. But the shuriken, though, I found some interesting stuff with that.
Yeah,
so,
love to hear it.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff, this is sort of why theoretically it could be an interesting matchup. A lot of the ninja weapons are designed to get around armor.
Okay.
So the shuriken really weren't used so much to throw. A lot of times they would be used as like caltrops for people to trip over. And especially they would sometimes put them in animal poop, and it would cause an infection, which was incurable back then.
Interesting.
So, see, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because I love when they introduce the shuriken. He comes out and he says,
yes,
this is the most lethal weapon ever made.
Yeah, it's really versatile. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
so
throws it at the dummy and it bounces off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, Craig, because when we see them throw the shurikens at the dummies, like, it sinks into the wood pretty good, but when they throw it at like the dummies, it only goes in like maybe like half an inch or something like that. And I guess if that hits you in the neck or the eyeball, like, it's going to hurt really bad. I don't know if, aside from nicking a very specific artery, like, not lethal.
I don't think
you know
there's
what I
enough
mean?
weight to have like any piercing power.
Right.
It's very. I mean, they're just
it relies on being razor sharp. Like it's
Yeah.
Armand Dorian describes it as like 4 scalpels, basically. So I could see it being like a lethal weapon. It's just in the way they present it in this particular fight, it seems kind of useless.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I do not want a ninja star thrown at me.
Right.
So,
yes. Yeah.
But you know,
obviously,
they mention also you can put it in between your fingers, almost like a
punching
brass knuckle
Interesting.
type deal. So it's super versatile. But the traditional like throwing star, yeah, you have to hit a very specific part of the body, and a ninja's probably not going to do that. Like the type of units that they were used as are not going to have a head-on fight with a samurai. You know what I mean? Historically, so
Yeah.
they're going to use it in a lot more crafty ways.
You can use it as a brass knuckle. How do you cut your own hand open?
Well, maybe it's only edged on certain sides, you know.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
what if-
Or you might have like a pad across your palm.
Yeah.
See, okay, I got a really cool. I'm gonna redesign the shuriken where there's we'll do 2 sharp edges and then we'll kind of continue it down in like a little metal piece and we'll wrap like a handle around that. And then we'll put a sheath over it, and then you can pull it out of the sheath and stab with it.
That's a good idea.
I'm reinventing the wheel here.
That's not a bad idea. So
It's called a knife, people.
I guess a ninja could carry like a lot of these and throw them, and they had to put it on the show because it's the logo of the show. The logo of the show is
That's true.
I think a Spartan inside of a ninja throwing star, right?
Yeah.
I think that is the logo. So probably a shout out to their pilot heroes, but yeah, in this episode, I just don't know how much use it is against the Spartan, and it does get 0 kills in the sim. So now
I'll cover that.
the javelin, it's not as though the Spartan is really bringing a beauty queen here himself.
Or the Spartan wouldn't bring it at all because
Yes, you have some important points about the javelin. Go for it, Luke. Tell us
the
all
Spartan
about it.
warriors would not carry a javelin. They carried their dory spear and the shield. It was the non-Spartan citizens, the lesser warriors, that carried the slings and the javelins.
So they were like the ranged units?
Yes.
Kind of? Okay. Well, did they have like specific cast names or whatever? It's like the Helos and the...
Yeah, I wrote it down. Hang on.
Right. So
That's
that's...
the hoplites and the...
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a hoplite's a spearman.
Yeah, the hoplite is like the regular Spartan warriors that would carry... That's what you think of. That's the 300 guys.
Okay.
And then...
This show does that. I won't touch on any future episodes because we'll stick to this one, but in future episodes where there is different types of a certain warrior, they'll just kind of combine them together in a mishmash. The next episode we do is Apache versus Gladiator, and the Gladiator is a perfect example of like
We'll
they
tear that
mash.
one apart.
Yes, we will. They mash like 3 different versions of a Gladiator into one thing. So
I mean, just look at like the hoplite, the Spartan warrior. Where would he carry a javelin to? Maybe I'm wrong.
He's got it on his back.
Maybe they slung one across their back, but from everything that I saw, it was the lesser soldiers that carried the javelins and the slings, which almost seems like a better job to me because you're not on the front lines.
Well, and it makes sense that the hoplites would hold a phalanx formation and, be holding off enemies with long spears and sort of really big shields. And then you would have the ranged units like behind them using their slings and throwing the javelins in mass. Of course, the javelin is used 1v1 in this fight, and I guess I gotta say, like, it's more impressive, I think, than the blowgun or the shuriken.
It's essentially a smaller spear that you throw. I mean,
only because the ninja's unarmored, though. Like the
Yeah.
shurikens are gonna bounce off a Spartan's armor. And if the javelin does land home, does hit the ninja in like the gut, like it's gonna do some damage.
I'm walking down the street and a guy says, "I'm going to throw a shuriken or a javelin at you." I might take the shuriken thrown at me instead.
So they end up giving the edge to the ninja here based on the blowgun's like lethality, like the idea that the poison is more deadly than what the javelin can accomplish. Do we agree?
I have a problem with this.
I'll go to Luke first.
Even in the sim, the javelin, we'll touch this at the end, ends up getting more kills.
Yeah.
the blowgun just is not an offensive weapon like a javelin. I mean, it's
a surprise weapon, right?
I mean, and just you're going up against a Spartan who is almost head to toe in armor. It's not very effective in my. It doesn't make sense to give that the edge to me over something against a pointy spear against an unarmored guy.
Yeah,
I don't.
What do you think, Craig? What do you think about the edge? For what it's worth, again, this is always tagged with an asterisk. But what do you think about the edge here?
So considering neither of those other weapons, like ninja weapons, got any kills.
Yeah,
I think that's the definition of an edge to the Spartan.
Yeah, I think the blowgun gets like 2.
The blowgun gets 4 kills, and the javelin gets 9. So I want to know what data they put in to get that, because I feel like the javelin would probably get more than 9 kills out of 1,000.
I think the ninja is very fast.
He probably put speed stat 100.
Yes. So on the Max Geiger AMA on Reddit, he answers the questions like, a lot of the stats he puts in for warriors are like video game stats. Like you think of your D&D character, like strength, dexterity, constitution, like stuff like that. I don't know if it's quite that simple, but it's stuff like that. So I imagine the stats for the Spartan's like stronger, can take more pain or something, like, has more vitality points. And the ninja is just faster. So probably hard to hit that fast little guy with the javelin.
I love that they touch on that, the Spartan's pain threshold, which historically I'm 100% positive Spartans had a very high pain threshold. Yeah. But like, they'll lop off his arm and he'd be like, Spartan wouldn't even bat an eye.
Yeah. Barry Jacobson does say that quite a bit in this, where he's
like gets blind. He's like, a Spartan would just look through the pain. It's like, I think your eyes aren't working anymore.
Spartans used to doing that every day in training.
Yeah, I think that like defensive, I don't know what you'd call it, but the defensive talk from the opposing experts when a demonstration is done, like in the Kusarigama demonstration, they talk about that the Spartan team, like whoever the guy,
Barry Jacobsen and Jeremy Dunn.
Yeah. He's like, well, the Spartan is going to be moving. You think we're just going to stand still? It's the equivalent of like when you're a little kid and you're playing Pokemon with your friend and your friend just keeps saying, you missed me. That's like, no shit, you're not going to stand still. But like, you can't make that argument for every single.
I am going to catch you on one of them, though.
It's the no you effect. You.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so many of these is like, well,
you will see that defense brought up again and again on this show. The idea that, well, we're not just going to stand there and let you hit us.
Yeah.
So I do not agree with the edge. I'd give the edge to the javelin, not even looking at the sim, but just based on like the evidence we're given. Like javelin could kill. The Spartan is covered from head to toe in this armor. I don't want a shuriken or a blowgun shot at me, but like, I'm also not a ancient combat warrior covered in bronze armor, and I think the Spartan just needs one lucky shot with the javelin, whereas the shuriken almost better set up as like a cantrip, like a trap that he can step on.
Yeah, actually, the Spartan needs one okay shot with the javelin.
Yeah.
The ninja needs the perfect shot.
Yeah, he does, like shot to the carotid artery in the neck with that shuriken. Okay, well, you got any more to say about the javelin or the blowgun or the shurikens, guys?
No, they're kind of useless in the final.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can move on.
Like I said, I love the sound effects. The blowgun sound effect and the shuriken, like little sound effects they do. All right, so in special weapons, they test the Spartan shield versus the Kusarigama. And they test the shield first. A couple things I want to say before I let Luke take the reins here.
I'm going to get let loose.
So the real shield is said to be made of wood and bronze. I don't know as though that's what the shield is made of that they're testing on this show. I'll leave that for you to discuss, Luke. All I can say is it bends on impact with the gel dummy, like the ballistics dummy, like the edge of the shield bends. I'm not sure as though it might be bronze. I know bronze is a soft metal, but it looks like it might be aluminum. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to bring up was that Jeff DeMoulin says a quote on here when Jeremy Dunn smashes the shield against the head of this dummy, and they're testing the kinetic force. Jeff says he's tested car crashes and IED explosions, and he's never seen kinetic trauma like he saw from the shield hitting the skull. And I feel like that's a lie. Dr. Armand says it generated 45 G's of force. I don't know about that. And I also question why this is even being used as an offensive weapon. So it gets a ton of kills in the sim. I guess this is a question for Luke. This is where I turn it over. Is the shield, did Spartans use this as an offensive weapon? Like, did they smack like they show in Deadliest Warrior? Because they do it in 300, but I mean, did they do that in real life? And can you tell us a little bit about the shield?
Let me tell you about the most blown out of proportion weapon in this episode of Deadliest Warrior. No, it is a very effective weapon. They did not use it like they did on the show. There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
Let me take it from the top.
I know you can hit someone with your shield. Like, that's a standard shield practice. But
the shield, yes, is wood and bronze. Is wood coated with bronze on the outside. It is absolutely a piece of stamped aluminum sheet metal that they use in the show. You can't even see wood on it. Like, where his arm is attached, it's just, you can just see it's a sheet of stamped
it's
aluminum.
Supposed to be wood in the center covered by bronze, but it looks like there's no wood in the middle there.
No.
It's stamped aluminum is what it looks like.
They would commonly hit enemies with their shield, but as you'd imagine, they would have it vertically in front of them, and it was more for pushing back. Whenever he demonstrates that hit, I have never seen a more useless combat technique. He goes, the Spartan would step in, and he brings the shield all the way behind him, leaving his entire body exposed when you're in, like,
cocks it back
range.
Like he's going to punch him with it. And that's what he
think
does.
Of a least effective way to use that shield.
Yeah.
And, like, he just leaves it's just such a mess. He exposes his entire body. The aluminum shield bends as soon as he hits the guy's head. That was not 45 Gs.
Yeah.
Even the stats that they give with the shield, they say that it's 4 foot. It's 3 foot in real life. Can you imagine holding a 4 foot shield?
I know they were big, but
yeah, I mean 3 feet is still pretty big, but
yeah,
they blow it a little bit out of proportion there. The symbol in the middle of it was a little bit interesting. It's the Greek letter lambda, which it stood for the region that they lived in and one of the Spartan kings, which was kind of cool. But the amount of kills that the shield gets, it is supposed to be used in conjunction with the Xiphos or the Dory Spear.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be your most offensive weapon.
And they do this time and again on this show, not just with the Spartan, but they test the shield as a particular weapon. They'll do it with the Viking in a couple episodes here too. And I don't know. I'm not a medieval arms expert. I'm not a professional fencer. I know there's a lot of guys even on YouTube who are pretty good with that stuff. I know you can hit someone with your shield.
It's a 30-pound shield.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely
it's a tactic to smack somebody in the face with a metal object, right?
Yeah.
But like, for it to get more kills than your spear and your sword just seems like I don't know if Spartans were like doing that, you know, like the Spartan is just cocking back and hitting the ninja in the face every time with his shield.
Go ahead and watch Barry demonstrate it. He has the shield in front of him. He goes, the Spartan steps in with his left foot and he brings the entire shield behind him.
Yeah.
A foot away from the dummy and then brings it, like, slashes it across.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. Hey, if we got an expert on Spartan shields, hit us up in the comments.
Let me know if they did this, but I strongly of a feeling that they would keep it, everything that I saw, they would keep it vertical and use it to kind of push back.
Yeah.
Or like push away from them to like create space. Not as much of like a swinging sideways on its axis as like a blunt force to try to take someone's head off.
So the other special weapon, the ninja's special weapon, is probably the most interesting weapon, in my opinion, on the whole episode. I'm about to have my heart broken and find out that it's not real.
That's my question. Is it a real weapon?
The Kasurigama, which is a scythe on one end with a ball and chain connected to it. We see this Kasurigama get demonstrated. It's used as like the penetration test against the bronze armor, and it's not able to penetrate on the show. Barry Jacobson, I just have to mention, gives us the legendary Barry quote where he goes,
"This is the acid test. You can't cut through this. You can't get to the soft, squishy parts underneath. And my guess is you're not going to be able to do that. This is 12 gauge solid bronze."
This is 12 gauge solid bronze, and I don't think you're going to be able to penetrate it. Something to that effect.
Probably just spray painted, stamped aluminum.
The way he says 12 gauge solid bronze is always stuck with me. So we love you, Barry. Send shout out, comment. We'd love to have you on an episode, man. Craig, can you tell us about the Kasurigama?
So I was going to say, to me, this was also probably the most interesting weapon.
Yeah.
It is real, although it was used by the samurai.
Okay.
So I watched a demonstration of the Kasurigama, and how they demonstrated it in the show really does not do it justice for how it's supposed to be used. So
probably because neither of the stunt actors had ever even seen a Kasurigama before, and it is intimidating. I wouldn't want to be swinging that thing around if I had no idea what to do with it.
It's like the people who hit themselves in the nuts trying to do the nunchucks. You'd chop them off instead.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Luke Klein launches it like he's playing bocce or something. He's swinging over his head. So how you're supposed to use it? How they introduced it in the show, I'll say, is that farmers, they would have hatchets, and that somehow this was an inspiration of using these peasant tools to create something deadly, and that is not it at all. So if you would use it like you would use it in the show, it'd basically just be like a normal hatchet, where he's attacking him straight on in the armor. It's a really dumb test. Really, the Kasurigama primarily is that ball. So you wrap it around limbs, weapons to disarm people. And that's really the strength of the weapon, is that ball. You can use it, obviously, to inflict injury, and they end up testing how much pressure that does. But also, besides the actors maybe not being experienced with it, perhaps it's it'd be too complicated to implement in the sim, a weapon that's so multi-use.
Yeah.
So... that's another element too, I think. But they don't demonstrate it in the way it's used. At that point, it's just like a hatchet or any other type of edged weapon.
Are you also able to do it the other way, where you hold the ball and swing the hatchet around on the chain? So you could cut.
It would probably be flimsy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, never mind. I see. I'm not a ninja, guys. So.
Can I tell you my favorite part of that entire test?
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite tests on the show. Go ahead. Bring it up and watch the slow motion footage. He goes back and, he hits him with the rounded edge that's supposed to be pointy that they didn't sharpen.
Yes.
It sticks into the dummy, and then they come over and they're like, "Oh, he broke 3 ribs." Rewind that footage back. The 3 ribs are already broken before he hits the dummy. There's already so they're clearly reusing one.
Yeah.
There's already a wound. And he misses in the slow motion footage. He actually misses the ribs.
Yeah.
And where the wound that they point at isn't even the one that was made by the weapon.
Interesting. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I watched the slow motion footage back today, and the ribs are already broken.
There's so much
film.
Yeah, it is that every episode of Deadliest Warrior is like the Zapruder film, because you can watch it over and over again and discover something new each time because of how fake the show is. It's so fabricated. That even simple Google searches the Ninjato, this is this is the quintessential weapon of the ninja, never even existed. No evidence that it even existed. Yeah, so I did also want to bring up another funny moment with the Kasurigama is he tries the scythe end against the 12 gauge solid bronze, and it bounces off. And Michael Lear tries to save it, and he's like,
Of course, where does the blade go next?
It goes up to his
right
neck.
up next to the neck. From there, exactly, you see where the blade's curving around right now?
Yeah.
You go for the back of the neck, you go for the side of the neck, hook in there, drag.
And that's the one place he doesn't have armor.
Oh, but look at where it goes next.
It's like the most pathetic justification.
And Jeff DeSMOULIN, I'm not even going to invite Jeff onto the show because he's not going to come. He's way too cool. Jeff, I have to say, I mean, you'd be welcome, but Jeff goes, I think it's BS. Like, I think he says, like, I think the ninja's full of crap. Like, that wouldn't bother the Spartan at all. You know, because Michael LEHR's like, look where it goes next, because it like deflects up towards his neck, and he's like, Ninja takes off his arm, takes off his other arm. There's only one thing left to do: go for the kill.
Yeah, the narrator's like,
Ninja are selling. Nobody's buying.
like, so I'm glad they call attention to just like, man, this is like lame.
Yeah, the softest save like ever. So now we can get into the results. Obviously the Spartan, spoilers, the Spartan ends up winning. Spear gets 210 kills, Short Sword gets 52, Javelin gets 9. Shield is the highest performing weapon in the whole thing with 382 kills. And that gives the Spartan a total of 653 kills out of 1,000. Ninja, the Black Eggs, get 0. Ninjato gets 123. Blowgun gets 4. Shuriken also gets 0. And the Kasarigama gets 220. Ninja ends up with a total of 347. I didn't look up the exact number. I know this is one of like the most one-sided losses actually in Deadliest Warrior, like in all of the episodes. And I never covered the edge for the shield and the Kasarigama. We can do that real quick. They end up giving the edge to the shield. In my opinion, Kasarigama should have got the edge. Like I know the shield was really devastating what they tested, but the shield is not. I think it's a really big advantage that a Spartan has a shield, but for the purposes of armor, like for the purposes of taking damage, I think as a weapon though, I'd rather have. I mean, if I was skilled with it, I'd rather have something like a Kasarigama.
I think it depends on your definition of an edge. Like, if you have a Spartan with just a shield, a ninja with just Kasarigama, I mean, that's exactly what the ninja is looking for.
Yes.
Is by throwing that ball and chain around and tripping him or disarming him with the shield. Like, that's textbook what a ninja would want. So, if that's your definition of what an edge is between, like, a one-on-one match, clearly the Kasarigama would win.
Right. They never bothered to test. I would rather see, like, mid-range. Spartan is armed with a shield and spear, and a ninja is armed with a Kasarigama, right? That seems like way more fair to me. And then close range is like shield and Xiphos versus Ninjato and Black Egg. But what do I know? I didn't get to make the show.
Yeah.
So.
They never test really too much against the shield either to see, like, you know, their fake shield.
I wonder why.
They probably busted it.
Their aluminum shield.
I'll be the odd guy out. I think I'd rather have the shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice big shield. You could block a lot of stuff with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like as long as you got the proper shield, you could probably throw that ball at it, and you keep blocking it all day with the shield.
Yeah.
I think it would be beneficial.
So, back to the results. I mean, every episode of Deadliest Warrior, and this is how you can tell it's like a written show, and it was way easier for me to discover when I discovered that this was a scripted program, that someone like wrote like a fiction episode, right? There's a thesis to every episode. And I think they always give it away at the end. And it's so that you don't realize that the show is so arbitrary in its results. Like, it's completely dependent on, like, what the actual results are dependent on is two things. Like, what weapons they pick, and then what experts they have wielding them. Because we'll see in future episodes, time and time again, experts who have no idea what they're doing with a very complicated, like, ancient weapon. And they blow it for it. And they're like, well, that thing's useless. We didn't really have any of that total incompetency in this episode, except with the Kasarigama.
I just think there was incompetence on how they applied the usage of certain weapons.
Yeah. You could argue that. I think the thesis, though, that they tried to give in Spartan vs. Ninja, the reason that the Spartan wins, I think and it's clearly he's like reading a line when he says this, and that's why I think this is like the author writing this in. And I believe the writer of the episode is Tim Prokop, who's also the director and a co-creator of the show. The episode thesis, I think, is Dr. Armand Dorian says, the ninja could hurt the Spartan, but the Spartan could kill the ninja. And I think that covers everything. I think the two angles they're trying to go for in this episode are that the Spartan is armored, and that's an advantage versus an unarmored opponent. And the Spartan has a lot of simple but lethal weapons, while as the ninja has a lot of like complex but like not as lethal weapons. And let me read the counter before I let you guys in on this. The counter, I think they put in an infamous line that Michael LEHR reads. And I don't think he came up with this himself. I think they had him read it. It is infamous to our friend group. We've quoted it for years, right?
You know, I'm disappointed, but if a ninja saw a Spartan in real life, he would just run away. He'd come back and kill him in his sleep.
Obviously, that is the most bitch-made quote I've ever heard. But I think there's significant truth there. I think it's a counter-argument to like the idea that, well, the Spartan could kill the ninja. What do you guys think about the result? I mean, obviously, this whole thing is silly. This whole thing is predicated on the circumstance that Deadliest Warrior sets up for these two warriors, and that this is a one-on-one brawl where they're in a sort of video game gladiator arena. What do you guys think about the results? Craig, I'll start with you as Team Ninja.
Yeah, well, I guess as Team Ninja, I'll speak for the results of, I guess maybe how the team acted. I'm not proud of it. I would have liked to hear what Luke Klein had to say a little bit.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he really gave his opinion.
He did not.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair. I can't really argue with a lot of the points that they make. I do really love Michael LEHR because he is, when he's testing the weapons, like Barry Jacobsen will say some shit and he'll get pissed.
Yes.
Like he cares so much. I don't know if there's another.
Michael LEHR is giving it his all.
Yeah. And if he is acting, that's quite a performance.
Yeah.
Like he might deserve an Emmy.
Hats off to Mr. LEHR. He is probably, even though I talk up Jeff in this episode, Michael LEHR is probably the most famous and successful guy that's on this episode. He's been a stunt actor in a lot of like blockbuster movies. So kudos to you, Mr. LEHR, for giving a wonderful performance in this episode.
The black egg.
Yeah. All the unnecessary.
Adds the flair.
Does 100 hand motions after he throws the black egg.
Adds the flair.
Ends in a pose.
He's doing those kicks where he's like putting his foot an inch from the Spartan's head. And then I just want to reiterate, every time they interview him, he's sitting on the floor doing a split with his hands together in like a yoga pose. He sells it for me. Way better ninja than Lou. I'm sorry, Lou, but Michael's a way better ninja.
Yeah. It might be fun at the end of the season to have a wrap up and rate the
experts.
Presenters. I think that'd be fun because they add so much. As, you know, there's so many memorable ones.
Barry, I think, would make my top 5 probably. Obviously we're going to be rewatching these episodes, so I don't remember everybody, but I feel like Michael LEHR, off the top of my head, Michael LEHR, Barry Jacobsen, and Sonny Puzikis are, who we'll cover in a later episode, are probably the best presenters on Deadliest Warrior. Maybe Killian Elliott as well. What do you think about the outcome, Luke? Spartan versus Ninja.
Love him or hate him, the Spartan. Put aside the whole 300 stigma.
Right.
Just looking at him as like an ancient warrior. It's essentially, I mean, the Spartan is a warrior. The ninja is an assassin, and you're on a warrior's battleground. You're putting a warrior against an assassin out of his element. The the result, I mean, just speaks for itself. I mean, it's literally, you know, the alpha Spartan coming. I mean, the guy who's made to go head on with someone versus someone who, you know, would just run away and come back and kill him in his sleep. That is the most bitch-made argument because the Spartan team could go, well, the Spartan would just leave and come back and kill him in his sleep. I mean, anyone can do that. I mean,
I think it's brought up as the counterpoint because the ninja's whole thing is stealth.
Yeah.
So
and made up.
Right. I'll give my final thoughts. This is the best show ever made.
How many years later we're still talking about it?
This is the best show ever made.
And you can't watch without smiling.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's
It's
just
so much fun. Everybody seems like they're having fun filming it. The ninja, because it's like the show is deceptive in nature in that it's a fake show posing as like a real one. But I don't think anybody on there is going in with the intention of being deceitful or like trying to trick anybody. I think they're just there to like have fun and like
I think they don't have a big enough budget for what they want to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously with what we're presented, I agree 100% that the Spartan would win. I just think it's so stacked. Like this type of scenario is so stacked in favor of a conventional armored fighter that, I don't know.
I think this is one of the worst matchups in the show.
statistically it is.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, it is one of the worst matchups in show history statistically. But
I mean, it just doesn't make sense if you think about it.
Well, we do get to see the Spartan perform again. We'll get to that when we get to it. But he fights the samurai, and I think that's a much more captivating episode.
Yeah, I mean that's
much more captivating matchup
that you would think should happen.
Yeah. Okay. So, anybody else got any final thoughts about the episode?
Well, I will say, in my research for this, it makes me really excited to look into these other ones and see how much bullshit is out there.
Yep.
You know, we always kind of suspected it, but it's really fun to pull back the layers and see.
If you can hear those sirens on the microphone, I live down the street from where Jeff DeSmoulin used to work as a paramedic.
He's on his way.
He's on his way.
Yeah, how much shit you can fact check in 1 week?
Oh, dude. Try 2 days.
Yeah. Honestly, that's probably all the more I put into it.
Yeah, this show, I will agree with you 100%, Craig. So much fun to do. I can't wait to do more of these. I hope anybody who's tuning in for this one, shout out to the Xenu boys, but anybody else who's tuning in, I hope you come back and join us, maybe rewatch the show, get some of that nostalgia, come laugh about it with us.
Yeah, if you're not aware, it is on Amazon Prime. Yeah. It is not for free, but each episode is like $4 or so for each.
Unless you're
find it used DVD somewhere.
Yeah, unless you're like me, who has a rare copy of the Deadliest Warrior Season 1 DVD. All right, well, thanks for joining me, guys. I look forward to covering Apache versus Gladiator on our next episode. You guys feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, give us a like, come back and see more episodes. Check out Lucas on youtube.com/Green Dice Productions.
I think it's just Green Dice on YouTube.
Okay, so it's Green Dice on YouTube, at Green Dice Games on Twitter.
That is true.
Do you have any more plugs for yourself, Luke?
Not really. We'll get more stuff up soon. Just some gaming videos, you some general videos. Me and Matt are on there. Sometimes we might get Craig on there.
Yep.
It's just fun time. Check us out.
Yeah, we also stream on Twitch. Check us out. Green Dice Chuck Baz, Green Dice Gaming on Twitch. And Craig, you are Mangaz, Mangaz, Mangaz137 on Twitch. And Craig Taylor on Twitter, or on YouTube, rather. Sorry.
Yeah. My Twitter, Craig Taylor 0805. You can find me on there. That's where I'm most active. It'll be interesting to see kind of what we do, because we're thinking about doing more and more stuff together, so who knows what the future holds.
Yes.
More podcasts, more gaming content primarily, but hopefully this is
well, hey guys, join us next week to see who is Deadliest.